Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Gaming History. Today we're going to be talking about the video game crash of 1977. Prior to the video game crash of 1983, there was a lesser well-known game crash known as the video game crash in 1977. Let's begin with the first video game crash. Now, the video game crash in 1977 took place over the course of 2 years, from 1977 to 1978, before the market eventually recovered at the start of 1979, reaching new heights I'd never seen beforehand till its 1983 crash. And this saw a sharp decline in the value and worth of the video game industry, and an industry lost a lot of revenue during this 2-year decline in the industry, as many smaller video game companies went out of business during this 2-year period, as while the much larger companies remained, the smaller ones were the ones that mostly went out of business due to the crash. Alongside that, it also saw a shift in the market of what people wanted and started to buy. Now, this crash was caused by mainly one or two things in particular. First of all, the oversaturation of the market of Pong consoles. Pong, first released as an arcade game in 1952 by Atari, was a massive success, so Atari in 1975 made a home console version. But then many other companies started making their own versions, and soon the market was flooded with them. The first generation of video games was entirely flooded with home Pong consoles by just about everybody, and typically they only had the exact same 3 games: Pong, hockey, and handball. Almost every single one had these, and for a good 3 or 4 years, the market was just completely flooded with these. Even people like people like Magnavox, who made the first video game console, Magnavox Odyssey, even they got in on it, flooding the market with it as well. As in 1977 alone, Magnavox released 3 Pong consoles, the 2000, 3000, 4000, as part of a separate line known as the Philips Odyssey. They also released one as well in 1977, the Philips Odyssey 2001. 1976 also saw the release of things such as the Wonder Wizard and the APF TV Fun series. Telstar, with their Coleco Telstar series, released 6 Coleco Telstar consoles in 1977 alone. 6 of them. And they continued to push these out until 1978. 1978, they continued to push these out. The Pong craze was oversaturated in the market, and eventually consumers got tired of this. They wanted something else. So after 3 or 4 years of the same exact things, they wanted new things. And this loss of interest in the market, with all the consoles at the time just being the same gosh dang thing, copy and pasted over and over. And even the arcades themselves were flooded with Pong clones, as Atari had failed to make the right copyright things, and failed to file the right stuff. And due to them failing to do the right legal work and paperwork, it allowed just about anybody who had technology to make their own Pong clone, and soon enough the markets, both in the arcades and in the home, were filled with Pong. Pong, 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 Pong. And this would lead to this stark fall, as beginning in 1971, the market had been growing, but then in 77, the market dipped, and then in 78, the market dipped even more, even more before shooting back up in 1979. Now, what brought us out of this brief dip was the release of Space Invaders. Space Invaders was something new, hot, crazy, and innovative, as all the other games at the time were black and white. Space Invaders was green, which, being green, is better than being black and white. And it was something different from all the Pong clones at the time, and it eventually helped out the Atari 2600, as, unlike you wouldn't expect, the Atari 2600's its sales were surprisingly lackluster for a few years, up until they put Space Invaders on the Atari 2600. When Space Invaders came, it was flying right out the door with the Atari 2600. And if Space Invaders had to come around when it did, the industry would have possibly collapsed, as many people believed at the time that video games was a passing fad, similar to the hula hoops, as even in the packaging for Atari 2600, when answering consumer questions, people ask, is the Atari 2600 just a passing fad like hula hoops? And Atari has to say, no, we're not a passing fad. But that's just. But if you look, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of consoles released across even in 1977 alone, with so many consoles with magazines and catalogs having multiple consoles across multiple pages, across one or two pages. You can see why it took such a stark decline in revenue and sales. Why so many companies went out of business when that was their main revenue. And a lot of people like Coleco, they left the industry. The people who made the Wonder Wizard, same thing. APF TV Fun, same thing as well. And Magnavox switched over to making the Magnavox 2, a direct sequel to their original 1972 console, the Magnavox Odyssey, showing that clearly you need to get Palm was not the way to go anymore, and you need to skedaddle and travel or go bankrupt. And this decline ended in 1979, and with the game industry shot up higher and higher than you could ever possibly imagine, till 1983 when it all came crashing down. But you watch that first episode, go back and you'll find that first episode. You'll learn all about the big crash, 1983, ladies and gentlemen. But ladies and gentlemen, that's all I got to say for you all today. I hope you had a nice time learning about this, alright? So, bye. Have a nice time.